Hi, Steve Stahlberg here with pinup number 13, one of the October awards in my Patreon subscription. This time I'm doing another cliché. It's an assassin, a woman in a catsuit. She ended up looking quite similar to Black Widow, but I didn't start out with that as a plan. It's just that the combination of black leather or latex and white skin works quite well with red hair. Here we see the image that inspired me. To begin with, her name is Charisma Star. I have no idea why anyone would want to be called that, but whatever. This is her without the mask and the suit. She's looking quite different in that photograph. Anyway, pure white makes me nervous, so I darken it to whatever median color I plan for the final result, in this case late afternoon blue. I start sketching, trying for a sexy but stationary pose rather than a dynamic one in this case. Looking at the camera as if she's knowingly posing, I leave a little space to the side for a victim in the background. I also had a reference for the gun and the silencer and the hand holding the gun. There's no need for me to show that to you. Because it's proprietary, it's owned by an image bank, and there could be legal problems if I showed the exact image here in this tutorial. I also wanted to mention I'm also inspired by this face, the actress Marisa Tomei. This shot is her in My Cousin Vinny, where she does a great job. I think she also looks a little like what I'm going for here. Anyway, about the gun, there are literally thousands or tens of thousands of images of guns on Google, so if you want to paint a hand holding a gun, just Google it and you'll have your pick. Filling in some shading here. You won't see these marks in the final image. It's just that sometimes it just felt good to put this in here. It didn't take very long. It enabled me to balance the sketch more as I worked with other elements. The idea here is some kind of executive type or some kind of suit type person in an expensive looking chair. So we could fantasize about her being a CEO of some big company, or a lawyer or a prosecutor or something like that. I also wanted to have a skull shape there in the smoke. Maybe that's going one step too far, but let's see what it looks like in the final image first before I decide to remove it. Now I'm starting to cut out the layers. Eventually I'll end up with one for her outfit, one for her face, one for her hair, and one for the smoke. And later a couple of layers for the background itself. Flatted in the black base color of her suit, turned down the transparency so I can see the sketch. The sketch is on the top layer there, as you can see. I added the light source in there as well. I'll run a magenta colored airbrush over it set to screen mode, because that's the most common halo color of strong electric lights. Magenta towards reddish. Now some highlights here. Flatting in the hair and the skin, and some tones in the background. These rim lights, these edge lights, are much easier to do when you switch on, lock the transparency of the layer. This is what it looks like at full opacity at the moment. Now I'm airbrushing some blue. It's surprising how often highlights on dark materials have either a slight bluish tint on them, or even a very strong one. Highlights are rarely completely lacking in color. Same for glows, like I just mentioned, the magenta colored glow for the lamp, which is coming in later. Fixing up some errors here with regards to the initial pass I did on the flatting in the cutting of the layers. What I'm trying to do with the hair there is I'm trying to have one tress of her hair sort of wrapped around the gun, like she's almost like she's doing it on purpose, like she's grabbing a tress and twirling it around her silencer, just like some people twirl their hair around their fingers, sort of unconsciously or subconsciously. Remember when you're painting the nose not to make the nostrils too large, too round and too dark. It's a common mistake because we know that nostrils are large and round. You know, that knowledge sits in our left brain. Well, not really, but that's how many people talk about it, like using the left brain, the logical part of our brain. We remember the structure of, we remember the construction of an object, how it's constructed and structured, and so we try to sort of show that when we draw it subconsciously almost. We try to show round nostrils because we know they're round, but you have to be very careful because it does not look attractive at all when you're trying to draw attractive people, like men also, but especially women, especially young women. You have to be very careful with the nose, the nostrils. Also the teeth, you have to be very careful with darkness between the teeth. See here I'm keeping it very light. I'll be darkening it a little bit more later, but you can't ever really use black, even if you use really thin lines. It doesn't work. It makes a person's teeth look dirty or separated or just snaggly or wrong or bad, you know. Which works great for some characters, but not for younger characters who are supposed to look attractive. Also the lines in the face, certain of the lines. The one above the eyelid is okay, you can darken that as much as you like. The anger lines also, you can darken those as much as you like. But the disgust lines, which appear when you wrinkle your nose next to the nostril, you have to be very careful with those. Also the laughing, it also comes out as you laugh, and so you could call it the laughing lines. The nasolabial fold, basically, is what the correct name is, I think. You have to be very careful with that fold and not connecting it too harshly to the nostril, and overall not making it too dark. Also lines underneath the eyes, bags under the eyes. If you have to have something there under the eyes, you have to look very carefully at your reference, and you have to avoid putting the line under the eyes all the way from outer to inner corner. Usually, if you look at your reference, usually you'll find that it'll be more subtle than that. It'll be weighted more towards the outside of the face, I think, usually, and also not too strong and deep and sharp, because that is one line that makes people instantly look very, very old. That one and the nasolabial fold, those two will make a person look very much older than perhaps you intended. Painting smoke is always fun. Use masking and a large airbrush with max white. Go gently over it in a broad stroke in a way that the amount of white varies along the smoke. After that, fill in the details with smaller brushes and smudge. Smoke can't ever be sharp on the outline, not really anywhere, so basically what I could have done here was to put a bit of Gaussian blur over the whole thing. I did do that, but in a different way. I used a blur brush to put, like I'm doing it right now, I'm putting the blur brush all over it. I could have used a filter as well. Doesn't matter. More detailing. You'll see I'll use progressively. You'll see I'll progressively darken the hair here, more and more towards the end. That hand turned out a bit small in the end, and I actually enlarged it later. You'll see I'll progressively darken the hair more and more towards the end. I used unsharp mask to help detail the hair also. That is not right now, but after a few strokes like these, a few more detailed strokes with a thinner brush, I used the unsharp mask only on the hair level. Some adjustments happening there. That part of the hair right there was actually sitting on a wrong layer, so I moved it to the right layer. Cleaning up. Smudging the hairline, that's important. The hairline is very soft. It has to be quite soft in most people. If you see the roots, the way that the roots merge into the scalp. There's the unsharp mask, and I faded it out a bit, and then right after that add even more detail. Right now, right there I was using a hair textured brush as well, and I'll go over it with a smudge tool. Here's a simple brush. I don't like to use the hair textured brush too much because you'll start to see repetition of the pattern. Which starts to look unrealistic. I'm actually going to darken it even more later on and remove some of the strong red color. It's a little unrealistic now. I know she's cartoony looking all around, but it's a judgment call. I also haven't made her eyes bright green either, which is another thing that I could have done if I wanted to keep it really cartoony, but I often try to not go overboard with cartooniness. I added some unsharp mask on the face, some contrast, and I actually made her eyes blue instead of green. And I'm gonna clean up the victim a little bit here. I actually like the sketch of the victim better than what I actually ended up with in the end, the painted version of the victim. So I think I'm going to retouch this image a little bit in the future. At some point in the future, I'm going to try to bring back a little bit of this feeling I have in the sketch. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do it. I particularly like her nose area, the way that turned out in the sketch. The nose and the eyes and the lips, her face there, the center part of the face. And I might try to grab that area and maybe colorize those lines a little bit and try to insert them somehow into the painting. Again, here you can see a nostril that turned out a little bit too large and round, which I'm going to have to adjust a little bit to make it into a thinner, much less strongly accentuated line. Yeah, right there. The painting on the face actually looks better here than it did later. I think I overworked the face a little bit, which happens a lot to me, but the good news is that at least I can see I did that, and I can go back and try to fix it later. Okay, the background. Yeah, it's just some random colors there, colors that I thought would fit. I don't really know why I added these rays which are coming in here. I guess it just felt a bit empty there, and then I just wanted to add something, even if it's abstract. I don't know, sometimes you just feel like something needs something, you know. And that was my choice in this case. I probably could have come up with something better if I'd thought more about it. It's kind of weird colors, that orange, that kind of muted reddish orange with the with the dusty blue there. But I don't know, it seems to work. Some more cleanup here. It's almost done now. That's it. It's done. Looking back at it now, I'm fairly happy with some of the elements. I've mentioned a couple already, but they just don't go together that well. It's a bit of a disjointed look, perhaps. I should go back in and try to make the whole work together better. There are some stylistic differences between the victim, the assassin, and the background, and even the smoke has that cartoony skull, which is cartoony yet realistic, and I'm not sure if the skull works, and I want to rework the victim a little bit, as I said. But anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.